on this Thursday night, Ottawa's proposal to get tougher on crime.
We're fixing ineffective policies from the past.
The plan to crack down on violent and repeat offenders. The new development in the West Bank, crushing the dreams of a Palestinian statehood as the U.S. president issues a fresh ultimatum to Hamas. Back in the NHL after the World Junior sex assault trial, the team that just signed one of the acquitted, and why. Plus, the Blue Jays bounce back.
And everybody's gearing up for a win tonight.
The hopes the team can maintain momentum.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Ann Gaviola.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced plans to make sweeping changes to this country's criminal justice system in a bid to make good on campaign promises to be tough on crime. A cornerstone of his proposal is a new bail reform bill taking aim at serious crimes like assault and theft. As David Akin reports in our top story tonight, the move appears designed to counter long-standing criticism that the Liberals are too lenient on offenders.
Keeping Canadians safe is one of our new government's core missions.
And so, as part of that mission, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government will table new, tough-on-crime legislation next week. At the heart of it is bail reform. Those accused of violent auto theft, breaking and entering, human trafficking, violent assault, and sexual assault will now face a reverse onus challenge if they want bail. That means an accused person will have to convince a judge they should be allowed out on bail, rather than the current system, which requires a prosecutor to convince a judge to keep them in jail.
We're making bail stricter to keep you safe.
On top of that, the Liberals will now allow consecutive sentencing, so that multiple crimes means more time behind bars. Next week's legislation will also allow for harsher penalties for those convicted of organized retail theft, and conditional sentences will no longer be permitted for those convicted of sexual offenses. That means they will not be able to serve their time in the community or under house arrest.
If you commit sexual assault, you will serve your sentence in a correctional facility.
And Carney wasn't done there.
Tougher laws are only one part of safer communities. We also need the people and the resources to enforce those laws.
Next month's budget will include $1.8 billion to hire 1,000 more RCMP officers over the next 4 years. Now, the Conservatives argue the Liberals cannot be trusted to fight crime, and they point to data compiled by Statistics Canada. That data shows a steady increase in overall violent crime since the Liberals took office in 2015. In fact, there were 55% more violent crime incidents in 2024 compared to 2015. And that's a period when Canada's population grew only by 16%.
Here we are 7 months into his term. He has done nothing to scrap Liberal bail. Crime is raging in our streets, and the problem gets worse every day.
Liberals have told me that the perception by many voters that they were, quote, soft on crime actually cost them some seats in Brampton, in Calgary, and in Vancouver. And with this package, Liberals want to show they can take a different approach to violent crime. Ann.
David Akin in Ottawa, thank you. There is little new progress tonight in the first phase of the internationally brokered Israel-Hamas peace plan. Hamas says it is unable to locate any more hostage bodies without outside help, and Israel has not allowed the important Rafah crossing to reopen to allow more aid to enter Gaza. Today in Israel, flags were lowered and wreaths laid during official ceremonies to mark 2 years since the October 7th attacks. The commemorations were delayed because of a religious holiday last week. With the peace deal at risk, U.S. President Donald Trump posted on social media that if Hamas doesn't stop killing civilians in Gaza, the U.S. will have to kill Hamas militants. Redmond Shannon reports.
Some scenes of joy in Israel on the official day of commemoration for the October 7th attacks. Some of the recently released hostages returning home from hospital. An emotional Eitan Horn thanking everyone who supported him. The thoughts of many in Israel remain with those mourning the 9 dead hostages whose bodies were returned from Gaza this week. The The father of Tamir Nimrodi asks what kind of world this is where a father has to eulogize his son. This Hamas official in Lebanon says the group needs special equipment to find the remaining 19 Israeli bodies in Gaza, but that Hamas is committed to finishing the task as part of the first phase of the peace plan. The text of the ceasefire document did suggest it would take some time. 120 Palestinian prisoner bodies have now been returned from Israel too, but authorities are struggling to identify them without working DNA testing facilities in Gaza. This forensic pathologist says some of the bodies had their hands and feet bound. He says 2 even had ties around their necks. Global News has asked the Israeli government and Israeli Defense Forces about these allegations. Neither has provided a response. At the southern end of the Strip, Israel has yet to reopen the important Rafah crossing, despite United Nations calls to do so.
So the immediate needs for the people of Gaza are obviously to look at the humanitarian needs. This is food, water and shelter.
This man says he was expecting more aid to arrive once the peace deal was agreed to, but he's seen no increase yet. He says the fear among people here is that the deal may collapse before the first phase even finishes. Redmond Shannon, Global News, London.
As the world monitors a fragile ceasefire in Gaza, Palestinians are warning of Israel's actions in the West Bank. Even as many Western nations, including Canada, signaled their recognition of a Palestinian state last month, Israel has pushed ahead with controversial plans that are effectively burying the idea of a viable two-state solution. Jeff Semple traveled to the West Bank, where a planned development is crushing any hopes of Palestinian statehood.
The Palestinian town of El Azariah is one of the busiest and most vibrant in the West Bank. But this ancient community just east of Jerusalem is now facing an existential crisis, as is the dream of Palestinian statehood.
They demolished the state of Palestine, the idea of state of Palestine.
In August, the Israeli government announced plans to proceed with East, or E1, a plan to build 3,400 homes for Israeli settlers on Palestinian territory that would essentially split the occupied West Bank in two, cutting off East Jerusalem. Israel's far-right finance minister says the move was in response to recent decisions by Canada, France, and others to formally recognize the state of Palestine. There will be no Palestinian state. This place belongs to us, he says.
All the land in between will be confiscated.
El Azariah's director of planning says their town would be completely surrounded by Israeli settlements and checkpoints.
Azariah will become open-air prison.
The E1 plan was first proposed 2 decades ago, sparking protests. The plan was eventually shelved due to fierce international opposition.
Actions, such as the E1 settlement plan.
Canada's Prime Minister recently condemned the plan at the UN, but El Azariah's mayor says Israel only listens to the U.S.
20 years ago, the United States, they pushed Israel to stop it. But suddenly, in these days, they start to accomplish the project.
Israel has already issued more than 100 demolition orders and eviction notices, including to this Bedouin community who've lived here for generations.
What are you going to do?
I don't go anywhere. I am not refugee in your country or another country. I am in my land.
And take a look at this. Construction is underway right now for a new Israeli settlement right next to a Bedouin village, which has led to some tense exchanges.
You see here.
Eid Hamez showed us photos of armed Israeli settlers and soldiers who he says told them to move out. He says they cut their sewage line, killed and stole their livestock, and flew drones over their homes and schools.
Pressure from the Bedouin to leave this area.
He says it's hard to hear Canada and others calling for a Palestinian state over the sound of construction. Jeff Semple, Global News, El Azariah, the West Bank.
Trump has announced new plans to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin for talks to end the war in Ukraine. Trump says a date has not been set, but the two leaders will gather in Budapest, Hungary. Trump posted on social media after a phone conversation with Putin that Trump believes was very productive. He also said there will be a meeting of high-level advisors next week at an unspecified location. Trump is also ramping up the pressure on Venezuela. He's authorized the Central Intelligence Agency to conduct covert operations inside the country, stoking tensions with President Nicolas Maduro. Since September, the United States has struck boats off Venezuela suspected of transporting drugs and migrants to the U.S. Jackson Prosco reports on the increased military presence and what it could mean down the road.
The deadly American strikes on alleged Venezuelan drug boats may be just the beginning.
I think Venezuela is feeling heat.
After U.S. President Donald Trump acknowledged authorizing covert CIA activity within Venezuela, warning of the potential for direct military strikes.
Well, I don't want to tell you exactly, but we are certainly looking at land now because we've got the sea very well under control.
The drumbeat of conflict has only grown louder. Wednesday, several American B-52 bombers circled just outside Venezuelan airspace for hours, while the U.S. has reportedly deployed at least 6,000 troops to the region, including hundreds of Marines aboard a Navy ship.
I get a sense that he's maybe trying to get back what they used to call the gunboat diplomacy, right? I put a bunch of Navy SEALs outside your coast, I send you boats, and from that space of power, then we can sit down and negotiate.
Exactly what Trump is after remains unclear. Officially, drug cartels are the target, but the U.S. is openly seeking the ouster of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro and has offered a $50 million reward for his arrest.
President Trump believes that Nicolas Maduro is an illegitimate president leading an illegitimate regime that has been trafficking drugs to the United States of America for far too long, and we're not going to tolerate it.
Trump won't say whether the CIA has been authorized to remove Maduro from power. At a rally, the Venezuelan president called for no more CIA-backed coups. Venezuela has also increased military activity at border crossings. While Maduro has few friends, an attempt to overthrow him would continue a dark history of American interference in Latin America. That's unlikely to deter Trump, who has claimed drug cartels are effectively mounting an armed attack against the United States. Jackson Prosco, Global News, Washington.
The U.S. Justice Department has targeted yet another of President Donald Trump's political opponents. A grand jury has indicted Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton. Court records show Bolton has been charged with transmission and retention of national defense information. After leaving Trump's first administration, Bolton became a vocal critic of the president, going as far as saying he's unfit for office. He is now the third Trump opponent to be indicted in recent weeks, following former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. The U.S. Senate has once again failed to break the deadlock keeping the U.S. government shut down, this time rejecting a Republican bill to fund the military.
The motion is not agreed to.
The House-approved plan fell short of the 60 votes needed to advance a bill that would fund the Pentagon and pay U.S. service members during the now 16-day-long shutdown. The Pentagon, meanwhile, saw an unprecedented exodus of dozens of journalists this week, choosing to turn in their badges rather than agree to new restrictions on reporting. Nestle, the world's largest packaged food company, says it's cutting 16,000 jobs globally over the next 2 years. The Swiss food giant says 12,000 white-collar positions are affected. The rest of the cuts will come from manufacturing and supply chains. Nestle, which includes Kit Kat, Nescafé, and Purina as part of its 2,000 brands, says it's trying to save nearly $4 billion by 2027. The company faces stalled growth and a drop in demand from China. Diane Keaton's family speaks out. Coming up, what they're saying about the Oscar-winning actor's cause of death. Plus, the Blue Jays hope to knock it out of the park again. The Toronto Blue Jays are back on the field tonight, taking on the Seattle Mariners in Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. So far, the road team has won every game in this round. As Eric Sorensen reports from Seattle, the Jays are hoping to continue that trend by sending one of the best pitchers of this generation to the mound.
The man called Mad Max, the last time he pitched in September, a future Hall of Famer. But at age 41, can he help pull the Blue Jays even in their championship series after his own uneven season plagued by injuries?
I'm not going to point the finger at anything ailment-wise of why I was pitching bad. I was pitching bad. But I have used this time to try to get fully healthy, get everything right.
He is feisty and blunt.
One of the many great things about Max is he does not pull any punches. He'll tell you exactly how he's feeling.
Scherzer was a college phenom, has gone on to win 3 Cy Young Awards, pitched 2 no-hitters, and won a World Series. He has the quirk of mismatched eyes that fans have always loved about him. He sponsored adoptions of dogs like him, and fans love that he is a winner.
The guy, you're the leader on the team, right?
Jays supporters are counting on vintage Max Scherzer tonight.
He's got a lot of heart and soul, and he leaves everything out there on the field every time he plays.
Scherzer was signed by the Blue Jays to give the team a proven starting pitcher, much like Shane Bieber, who survived a shaky start last night, then shut down the Seattle Mariners. At the same time, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Blue Jays bats finally came alive for a resounding victory, reviving optimism this team isn't done yet.
You can't keep the Blue Jays bats quiet forever.
I didn't want to lose another game and fall 3-0 in the series, but thankfully our hitter's amazing.
In the clear light of day, recent ups and downs do make Scherzer seem a bit of a gamble.
The manager knows what he's doing, I guess, so we'll see what he does, eh?
Scherzer himself has never lacked confidence in moments like these.
Love it. This is what you play for. You want to have the ball in the situation. You want to be pitching in the postseason. You know, every game in the postseason is must win.
Even though the Blue Jays won last night, they have to win again tonight or they will be pushed to the brink of elimination. That's what happens when you lose the first 2 games at home. But should they win tonight or tomorrow night here in Seattle, it will send the series back to Toronto. And at the end of the day, that's what Blue Jays fans are hoping for. Ann?
Eric Sorensen in Seattle. Thank you. The first of 5 players acquitted in the World Juniors trial is returning to the NHL. Goaltender Carter Hart is joining the Vegas Golden Knights.
I've been out of the game for a year and a half now. I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot, and I'm just excited to move forward.
In a statement, the team says it remains committed to the core values that have defined our organization from its inception. It's unclear how much Hart will be paid. 4 of the 5 men were playing in the NHL when they were charged with sexual assault. After the not guilty verdict, the NHL decided they could resume play this December, while calling their conduct unacceptable. And watch where you're going. Ahead, a woman's dangerously close call at a Turkish tram station. In Turkey, a moment of distraction nearly became devastating. This CCTV footage shows a woman being pulled to safety after she accidentally stepped in front of an oncoming tram on Tuesday. A security guard was able to intervene just as the tram used its emergency brakes, narrowly avoiding an accident. An alarming report from the Vatican calls for financial and spiritual reparations for victims of sexual abuse by clergy from the Catholic Church. The Vatican's Child Protection Commission says Catholic leaders are not providing information to victims about how their reports of abuse are being handled. The Church's actions were criticized for being performative and too slow. Decades of scandals involving abuse and cover-ups have shaken the Catholic Church, damaging its credibility and costing it hundreds of millions of dollars in settlements. The cause of death has been revealed for late actress Diane Keaton after the Oscar-winning movie star died last Saturday. In a statement to People magazine, Keaton's family confirmed she died from pneumonia, as they expressed gratitude for the outpouring of support they've received. The magazine also reported that her health declined very suddenly in recent months, but she chose to keep her condition very private, sharing only with her closest family. Keaton was 79 years old. Next, Quebec students get briefed on the upcoming mission to the moon by the Canadian astronaut who's part of it. It was a special day for dozens of school children just outside of Montreal. The elementary students got a chance to learn about NASA's upcoming Artemis mission to orbit the moon, which Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen is a part of. And today he answered questions from some young and curious minds. Tim Sargent reports.
Are you scared to go in space without knowing what could happen?
Yes, I definitely get scared.
It's not part of his formal training, but Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen is taking a little time away from his prep work on an upcoming mission to the moon to field questions from 5th and 6th grade students at the Canadian Space Agency.
And I have no guarantee of the outcome. You can die in space, and just like you can die here on Earth.
Hansen was here to talk about his upcoming launch and showcase the importance of space exploration.
Even though this is directly related to human space exploration, these technologies impact everything we do.
Hansen will be the first Canadian ever to travel to the moon. He's part of a team of 4 astronauts in the Artemis II mission.
4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition.
A series of launches that began with an uncrewed test flight to the moon 3 years ago. Next April, Hansen will join 3 other astronauts on a 10-day lunar journey, traveling more than 1 million kilometers. This deep space mission is for further space exploration, with long-term plans of using the moon as a launch pad to eventually reach Mars.
We went to the moon in the Apollo program, but now we're going to go to stay. That's the goal. And we'll need new technology to do that, and will enable us to go to Mars.
Hansen's presentation was received with thunderous approval from the students who caught the space exploration bug.
He's really inspiring because even if there's the risk, he still does it to move forwards in human history.
Of course, this mission is all part of their prep work toward Artemis III, when astronauts will be returning and landing on the south pole of the moon, a launch that's scheduled for sometime in 2027. Tim Sargent, Global News, Longueuil, Quebec.
That is Global National for this Thursday. I'm Ann Gaviola. Tonight's Your Canada showcases Red Deer, Alberta, Fort Amherst, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Lockport, Manitoba. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow. Have a great night.